One of the things I've been seeing here lately, and this is over and over again, and it doesn't matter where you go, that in a comment section where there is a piece of media being critiqued, you will constantly find people that use, oh, but the themes are relevant as a defense for this. That's always boggled my mind because this is essentially like saying that a book is great because it has pages. Every piece of media has a theme, no matter how substantive or unimportant. It doesn't matter, they all have one. So how is it the case that's being used as a defense? Now, let's be clear at the very get-go here. We're not saying that themes don't matter, but for whatever reason, so many people, they rush to shout my themes as a defense anytime someone criticizes something they like, with zero examination as to the more important bits of the critique, like how the themes are executed. And so themes aren't nothing. We're not saying they're nothing, but they certainly aren't everything. And at least for us, I think we find that execution is far more important than a theme could ever be.
And I think that's the first point we want to look at, is the execution really is the make or break on a piece of media, not the themes. A piece of media having a theme, even a very relevant one, doesn't automatically mean that it's explored effectively. A good example that comes to my mind is Prometheus back in 2012, where it touches on some really big ideas like creation, faith, and the relationship dynamic of a creator and its creation. The problem is, it lays these themes out and it does absolutely nothing with them. You have the opening shot of a movie where an engineer, which in this film is humanity's creator, sacrificing himself to seed the earth with life, which goes on to be humanity. But it stops right there, and that's the deepest insight we get into this before hours later in the film, where this same race is now trying to destroy humanity. The actual execution of the plot is so sloppy that even if they did explore the themes effectively, it would still be undermined by how poor the writing is. And this film's been pretty infamous for this, but you have a crew of Earth's top scientists, and at different points in the movie, they take their helmets off on an unknown planet, they let a clearly infected crew member, who they left for dead earlier, back onto the ship, where he starts killing everyone, and they literally play peekaboo with unknown alien life forms that kill them a few seconds later. You can't make this up.
Yeah, she's a lady, look.
Huh?
Hey, baby.
I've never seen the movie, but you explaining it makes it sound really retarded.
And you know what? I wish I could take credit for that, but the writers did that one all by themselves. Another point, just to kind of further establish that it's in the execution, not the themes itself, is that you can have both critically acclaimed works and media that isn't very well received that both share the same themes. Take A Clockwork Orange and Equilibrium. Both movies go into governments enforcing moral conformity, but yet A Clockwork Orange is consistently recognized as an all-time great film and still gets studied and discussed in film schools all over today, yet Equilibrium's been largely forgotten. And I think this is in large part due to the execution, as we mentioned.
Just to clarify, you're not saying that just because something is popular means that it's good.
Well, we've taken the opposite stance of that on this channel many times, and we'll continue to do so. But it takes more than just a relevant theme to resonate with audiences, especially years after release, as evidenced by the fact that these two films have vastly different reputations, even though they touch on some of the same themes.
Well, in building on top of that point, that execution is what matters and not necessarily the themes themselves, what makes me laugh is you even have pieces of media that downright contradict their own themes and messaging. So for all the people who point to, well, it has themes and therefore this is a defense, that really doesn't hold up. Because we did a video recently on Metaphor ReFantazio, and that game is filled with themes about racial discrimination that are all undermined entirely by the game demonstrating how accurate these stereotypes are in universe. It's actually crazy. The Nydia, which are a tribe in the game essentially means race. They're exclusively liars. Every representative you have of the Nydia tribe that the game spends any amount of time with is a liar. Juna is a spy. Alonzo is a con man. Jin is a charlatan. Like, every one of these people is a liar by the game's own logic. So then why would I treat them the same as everybody else when the game gives me a good reason to distrust them and to discriminate against them?
So you're saying the game makes it a point to say racial discrimination is bad, but then affirms every negative racial stereotype for certain races?
Yes.
I mean, kind of based, but probably one accident.
So the Nydia end up creating a self-fulfilling prophecy and blaming their tendencies to lie and deceive on other people, and then they get mad at other people when they get stereotyped as deceivers. Where have I seen this before?
They break into your house and steal from you because they're like, well, you're going to think I'm a thief anyways. Might as well, fulfill the prophecy.
Right. It's insane. And people like, oh, it's so nuanced, it's so deep because of the themes of racial discrimination. What are we doing? It's retarded.
Well, you don't have the media literacy to see why it's great, unfortunately.
Oh, people in the comments let us know that too.
We're losing our media literacy badges if we ever had them.
Well, and Metaphor ReFantazio is by no means alone in this. Like, you'll have other games do it too. Like The Last of Us 2 undermines its themes of violence begetting more violence by showing how miserable life is for Ellie even after she spares Abby. I mean, you would think the message would be, okay, when you break the cycle, life gets better. That doesn't happen. And more than just that, the game repeatedly pushes the idea of revenge, only furthering the cycle of violence. But whenever Ellie finally breaks it, she suffers more than anyone. This theme lacks any sort of weight when the game is constantly forcing you to commit various acts of violence and then shaming you for doing so and trying to make you feel bad. Like, the game loves to have you as Ellie kill a dog whenever the dog's attacking you and forcing you into doing it. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, don't you feel bad about that? It's like, not really. Not really. You made me do it.
Oh, but hey, it's deep because they showed Abby playing fetch with the same dog earlier, so,
She saved a zebra, so she's a good person even though she beat somebody's face in with a golf club.
And as you said, the game forces you to do it. You will die if you don't kill the dog. There are common enemies in the game. When you kill them, their companions will yell out their names and cry because they know you've just killed their companion. And it's like, they were trying to kill us. You made me do that and then try to make me feel bad for doing it. This is not effective.
Well, to take this even further, not with Last of Us 2, but with making the overall point, it's even possible to have a critically acclaimed piece of media with culturally destructive themes. Like, say, Red Dead 2. And unfortunately, I know people will hate me for saying this. I actually enjoyed Red Dead 2. I like Red Dead 2.
Ew.
But I know. But even though I like that game, it is loaded with subversive stuff. Because Arthur Morgan somehow is this ruthless outlaw, but at the same time, through the course of the game, he gets forcefully kissed by a troon and does nothing about it. He fights for women's rights. He defends minorities to the death, all in like the late 1800s.
Well, that's what gets me. The game establishes he's ruthless at times and will snap and kill people, but then he runs with like the most multicultural gang of outlaws ever, and they allow Sadie Adler, the cowboy queen herself, to just do as she pleases with no pushback.
Hang him. No. You got what you came for.
I can't do it, Sadie. Not like this.
I said hang him. As you wish.
Yeah, well, again, it doesn't help that it's like, this is in the late 1800s, and yet for whatever reason, he has the morality of like a 2016 lib. What are we doing?
Most people just ignore the themes or the message in this case and just gush over the open world and the graphics and the impressive technical aspects.
That's probably right, but the point still stands though. It's possible to have an acclaimed piece of media that even has destructive themes. To make that overall point, that execution is what matters, not necessarily the themes. So maybe we should shift the focus away from themes and start talking about more substantive issues. Because I mean, a theme really is just one small element of media, not the whole thing. Like, you could have a game with terrible graphics, a horrible OST, bad balancing, terrible gameplay, a horrid story. All this isn't made any better by having a relevant theme. Like, Hollow Knight isn't good just because it has themes of sacrifice and perseverance. It's good because it has tight platforming, simple yet solid combat, a gorgeous art style, and a banger OST.
And clearly, themes aren't all that matters, because if it was, you wouldn't see the crazy pushback that we do to these Netflix live-action adaptations of all these beloved animes, like One Piece, Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist. And let me say, I am a staunch anti-weeb. I am a true red-blooded American. So I don't know too much about these adaptations, but I would think even the Netflix versions roughly follow the same stories and thus have the same themes, but yet still got poorly received.
It's almost like people kind of intuitively know that it's not really about what it's about. The themes kids don't really think what they're saying. It's like the Get Good kids. They just use it as this easy shorthand to dismiss whatever you're saying. That's what it is. It's a cudgel with which to beat you over the head and into submission.
It's also a method to confirm a bias. because they already think anything with X message is good, so they start from the end and work backwards.
Which, if you think that a theme or a message being pushed is all that matters, like, we got a term for that. They call you ideologically possessed. And if that's what you're doing, all you're doing is using a said piece of media to score points for your team. People come to TV, movies, and video games for entertainment, not a sermon.
And let's be clear, we're not saying you can't push a message or ideas within your art. Obviously you can, and you can do it very effectively. But people don't want to be preached to when they're trying to enjoy something.
Well, the problem now is that the art has taken a backseat to the message. I think that's what people are against.
Well, and it turns out a lot of these pieces of media that do preach at you, they lack the nuance to treat their worldview in an ambiguous manner. They always tend to paint it as if it's the objectively correct view, and anyone who disagrees must be punished.
Oh, I'm thinking of Death Stranding 2.
That was actually a masterpiece, though. What do you mean? Kojima's...
If you don't connect to the chiral network, you're the real epidemic.
And further evidence of this point, too, is that a lot of times you'll see the creators of certain works will even get mad that the audience doesn't share their view of the themes or characters. Like Alan Moore, the creator of Watchmen, who is a self-proclaimed anarchist, was highly critical of conservative politics, and he wrote the character Rorschach as a right-wing conspiracy theorist. Well, coincidentally, Rorschach ended up being everyone's favorite character because he had this unwavering commitment to his ideas even against insurmountable odds, which resonates with a lot of people.
Well, this has been happening for a long time. That liberals will try and write characters that people hate, so what they do is make them conservative and think, surely people will hate this guy, and then turns out that they love him the most. Like, this happened with Archie Bunker, too. This has been happening for the longest time.
Well, another recent example would be Joker, where they portrayed the character of Arthur Fleck as this mentally ill, lonely outcast of society, and because of that, he resonated with a lot of people. But Hollywood couldn't handle this, so they decided to turn Joker 2 into a humiliation ritual to own the incels. Because, it's not okay for them to like the first movie. And clearly Hollywood was right, because, man, there was just so many theater shootings after Joker 1 because all the incels went out of control.
Now, to add on to all this, you even have pieces of media that essentially forsake themes altogether, simply to entertain people. Like, whenever you sit down and play Bloons TD6, Tetris, Minecraft, whatever the case may be, these games don't really have a theme. Like, you may intuit a theme from the gameplay, but in terms of the narrative, it's just not there.
But believe me, that will not stop cringe YouTube video essayists from telling you about how Bloons TD6 is all about capitalism, or Tetris is about police brutality.
Oh yeah, they can't help themselves. Themes, as a whole, are highly subjective and open to interpretation, which is why we shouldn't put all that much stock into them. Because you can just make them up. And plenty of people do. I mean, one of the things that you constantly see in media is people inserting their own personal biases and interpretations onto media, rather than allowing the media to speak for itself. Like, and if the piece of media is good, it should be able to speak for itself instead of requiring the audience to do the work for it. Like, by way of example, I want to bring up a Tolkien quote. Tolkien said of allegories that he dislikes them, and one of the reasons why he dislikes them is because, quote, "I think that many confuse applicability with allegory, but the one resides in the freedom of the reader and the other in the purpose domination of the author."
And I think people get really hung up on trying to find the hidden message in media that sometimes they miss the plain message that's right in front of their face.
Well, and we know this, like y'all know this, that subtle messaging does exist. There are very secretive and subversive things you can often find in media. But the problem is that people will also project a lot of these themes that they want to see onto the media to affirm their own biases. So it can be very hard to discern them, and a lot of times it can lead people to reach for things that may or may not be there.
Well, a good example of that is The Matrix. There's some pretty obvious themes that I think most people would pick up on in The Matrix, like fate versus free will, or the nature of reality. But you have people in vastly different camps that have totally different interpretations of it because of how they see the world. The manosphere, so your Andrew Tates and people like that, have now adopted these concepts of the Matrix and the Red Pill to try and help explain how they see the current dynamics between men and women in the dating world. But then on the other hand, you have the directors of the film, the Wachowski brothers, at the time that the film came out, now the Wachowski sisters. They're adamant that the film was always an allegory about the trans experience. Although it's interesting to note, they only started saying this around 2019, well after they transitioned. not back in 1999 when it wasn't cool to be trans yet.
Well, I feel like a lot of this revisionist history is happening, and it's on both sides too. I hate to say that because I clearly am favorable to one side over the other, but I would prefer the focus to shift not on the themes necessarily, but back to the substance. And this brings us back to what we talked about at the beginning. Relevant or profound themes shouldn't be used as a shield to deflect legitimate criticism. Because again, saying a piece of media is great because of the themes tells me nothing about its quality. It's not even a defense, it's just an obvious pointless observation.
Well, tell me why it's good. Tell me why you liked it. Don't just tell me, well, racism is bad, so therefore it's good.
Right. How did you explore that theme? How did you show me through the various things that happen on screen that racism is bad, instead of just telling me that?
And wouldn't it make a whole lot more sense to evaluate a piece of media for what it is first, before you worry about something as malleable as themes?
You would think so. I mean, if it's actually quality, it will hold up even if the themes don't particularly resonate with you. Themes aren't the cake, they're the cherry on top.
So let's please stop pretending like a piece of media is good just because it has a theme that resonates with you personally, and shift the conversation to something a little bit more substantive, like how humans in 2025 are still putting beans on toast.